I had read the book in one sitting, actually on the train going home, missed my stop and carried on reading. It was very intelligent and very thought-provoking. It delves to the heart of the issue. And it had a visceral emotional reaction to it.
In a way, I don't know how I come to the stories that I write. I live with them for a long time, I play with them for a long time, put them together like this and like that, and at one moment I realize, okay, now I have it, now I can write it.
The book was written about 8 or 9 years ago by Bernhard Schlink, and it was his first book, I think I'm right in saying. He's a lawyer, and he wrote this book, which was an enormous international bestseller. And Anthony Minghella bought the rights, almost, I think, before the book was published. And when I read it, I immediately wanted to write the screenplay.
Anthony Minghella, my producer, had always wanted to make the film himself, write and direct it. And I've known Anthony for years, and Sidney Pollack is a producing partner, and they have a company in London called Mirage. And they were going to make it. And I've been badgering Anthony for years, saying, oh, you know, you'll never get round to it, let me do it.
I said to him, it's essentially a small film and you're much more interested now in making big films. Why don't you just give it to me and I'll write it and you can produce it and, you know, I'll do all the work and you'll get all the glory. And Anthony said, no, I really am going to write it, I'm going to do it myself.
And in the end, Anthony relented. He said, no, you're right, I won't get round to it for a few more years.
It was 8 years. And said, you're right, I'm never going to write the reader. You can do it if you promise to get it made next year. Because we've been meaning to make it for so long and we never, you know, Anthony had never got round to writing the screenplay.
Mr. Schlink was getting worried that his story might not be put onto celluloid, and in the end, Anthony said, well, if you do it as your next project, I'll produce.
So I was finally allowed to write the screenplay I'd wanted to write 8 years ago.
We went to Berlin really for 2 years, and we got together a fantastic German crew and a fantastic body of German actors.
She was great, wasn't she?
There are only 2 English actors in the film, Ray Fiennes and Kate.
Kate Winslet's an actress who just gets better and better and better and seems to inhabit the screen with an incredible authority now. And I think people have been finding deeper and deeper colours in her recent work. There's a density there which is like the work of the greatest screen actresses.
I feel unbelievably lucky, really, to have Kate, not just in the film, but also in my life. She's an astonishing actress, but a great collaborator, a great supporter, not just to myself, but to the other actors, and I think gives an amazing performance.
Kate Winslet was always my first choice. And I think she can be very tender and almost insecure, and then again, she can be so strong. But what I like most is this, she's a very sensuous and, in a way, earthy woman. And that's exactly what Hanna is.
I had read the book about, I'm trying to think, about 5 years ago. And I'm a relatively slow reader. I just am, I don't know why. And I read it in a day. And at the time, I guess I was maybe 27, and I thought, oh, you know, I wish I was a little bit older, what a wonderful part. And then about a year ago, Stephen got in touch and wanted to sit down and talk to me about it, and I really couldn't believe it. I thought, seriously, for Hanna Schmitz? Wow, my God, aren't I too young? And so we sat down and started talking, and I realized that, that maybe I could do it. Hanna, at the beginning of the story, she's 32, and then she ages kind of incrementally throughout, all the way up until she's about 68. I've never had prosthetics before or anything like that, and so it's an extra dimension to my job that I've never experienced before now, and you know, and that's the great thing about acting, is that you know, you do get to have these new and different experiences, and wow, it's really great.
It happened so fast. It was snowing, the bombs, the flames. There were flames all over the village. Then the screaming began and got worse and worse. We were responsible for them.
It's such a special part. It has been really eye-opening. You know, I've learned so much. I've learned so much more as an actress, and I've learned a lot more about myself as a person. It's been creatively some of the most valuable experiences of my entire life.
Rafe Fiennes, I can't imagine anyone else who is so expressive of an inner life of somebody who is intelligent, serious, thoughtful, profound, and sensual, which the hero has to be. I think with Rafe it was, pretty much a given.
I never thought of anybody else. When David Hare and I were talking about adapting it, I think we both of us knew Rafe very well and just immediately went, well, this is Rafe's part.
You're Michael Berg?
Yes. The story is relatively simple, but the questions it asks about blame, judgment, guilt, love, sexuality is all quite complicated.
Hanna has been in prison for over 20 years. You're her only contact. And I'm told you don't visit her.
No, I don't. So he has a crisis of conscience. What does he really think about her? Why does he not see her? How do you condemn someone you've been intimate with and that intimacy is still something you hold close to you? He's an intelligent man who's come to realise that human beings are, have many different layers and faces. Particularly him.
He's so brilliant and so immersed, actually, really immersed in the character and wanting to do absolutely what's right for the character and yet at the same time be willing to try something different.
At face value, David, Kross and I don't look like each other, but I understand that we have similar qualities as actors. I can see why Stephen has put us together. I think he's got a great quality anyway, different to mine, whatever that is, but I think as a young actor he's beautifully pitched.
When Stephen first came to Germany and said, do you think there's a German boy who can play this part? The casting director said, yes, there's one. She said, I'll introduce you to a whole lot of others and you can choose, but there's only one. And Stephen auditioned 10 boys one day. And he said, well, the one I like is David Kross. And she said, yep, that's the one who can play it.
Actually, it was the first movie where I really learned about preparation and how to prepare a role. I spent a lot of time with Stephen and read a lot of books as well.
David went on an incredibly difficult journey, mostly to do with learning English well enough, because his English was not good to start. He did an enormous amount of research, because I always do, and I always think the actors should as well.
We went to the Jewish Museum in Berlin and went to the bookshop there, and Stephen made a huge shopping with 5 bags of books, and I had to read them. I thought that was a very, very big, huge challenge for me.
And then David blossomed, really, throughout the whole shoot. He blossomed into a leading actor, and that's what he is. He's an astonishing young man of incredible variety of gifts to do with sensitivity and openness and warmth and generosity, fierce intelligence, and an emotional life which is rich and runs very deep. So for me, it was a gift from the gods, as the director goes.
You didn't want to know me. You could see I was in the first carriage. So why did you sit in the second?
What did you think I was doing? Why the hell did you think I was there?
How should I know?
David, he's actually remarkably similar to his character, Michael. He's incredibly professional, really beats himself up if he doesn't think he's got something that he wanted to do or didn't feel like he'd tried something that he was planning to try. And he's very sort of sensitive little soul.
Have you spoken to her? Of course not.
He's just so perfect for this part.
Why, of course not. I can't do that.
We spent an awful lot of time casting, and we got together a fantastic body of German actors, all of who knew the book, because the book is one of the great school books, textbooks, and everybody knows it in Germany. And so I found the German cast incredibly helpful, wise, useful, and supportive in the examination of the story and the telling of it, and ways to look at it and re-look at it. And I am thrilled that the company is led by the giants of the German stage and screen, such as Bruno Ganz, who's a living legend in his own country and indeed everywhere, I think.
What we feel isn't important. It's utterly unimportant. The only question is what we do.
At first we could only hear the fire. It was in the steeple. Then we could see burning beams. And they began to crash to the floor.
And then we had Lena Olin, who's of course a wonderful actress.
When I read the script and the mother's When she testified in the trial, I was so moved by that. And I was like, can't I play the woman who wrote the book and her mother? And Stephen was intrigued, and we started doing makeup tests, and everyone decided that he could. I remember the last shot, and this was late in the day. We had worked all day, and it was time to go home, basically. But Stephen really wanted that shot of my character turning her back with her cardigan, just walking out of the room. And it was important that she was not going to be defined and consumed by being a victim, you know, so she has moved on.
Cut. That works great, right? It works great.
It's great.
When Anthony Minghella decided that he had too many other commitments, we talked about Stephen as a wonderful director.
If you can, David, that would be perfect.
I had seen The Hours and loved how these different levels were kind of worked together. I think Stephen is a wonderful choice.
With Stephen and I, it's almost as though we're from the same tribe. It's just a great collaborative relationship. I'm just loving every single second of it. I really am. He's like a sort of a child. He kind of reminds me of, he's like the boy in Cat in the Hat. And he looks a bit like Tintin. And he has this just unstoppable energy and such a profound love for the story. And not only that, but very, very clear idea of how he wants for the story to be told. And is very happy for everybody to be involved in that, you know, sharing ideas and just trying to come up with what's best for the story, what's best for this scene.
I think because he comes from the theater, he involves everybody in the process, and that's genuinely exciting.
With Stephen, it's collaboration or nothing.
In an ideal world.
For everybody. Stephen won't work with people who are not committed to collaboration. In that sense, it's much more like working in the theatre than it is in film. There's no sense of freelance. There's no sense of somebody joining for a day and just doing their bit and, you know, going away.
It's great. You don't know what to say.
You're all, sometimes exhaustingly, but also sometimes exhilaratingly, working together.
I don't think I ever choose material to make into a film because I think you can make a film. I just choose material that I'd like to be with for a long period of time. And obviously in making a film, you're with the material for a long period. So you have to make sure it's something that you really do love and want to explore and can keep exploring and keep relating to.
It's being shot really well and clearly, and I never feel he's imposing anything, just always asking questions. We have this big debate about judging, you know, condemning someone for what you know they've done, even if it's horrific. I mean, basically keeping the questions in focus, so it makes me feel I can trust Stephen.
Every single thing that is in the film is meant to be there, and it's operating at every level, metaphorical, dramatic, narrative, character. Everything is worked so that you have an achieved work of art. I mean, it's been a very strange film because of the experience of losing 2 out of the 3 producers. Anthony Minghella wasn't just a filmmaker himself, but he had formed a company with Sidney Pollack called Mirage, which existed to help younger British filmmakers and help them get their films made. And so Anthony died very suddenly and very shockingly.
Literally in the middle of filming, I got a phone call saying Anthony had passed away the night before. And it was terrible. Terrible. Still feels terrible. And then, of course, a few months later, Sidney died.
Sidney, we knew, had been ill before we even started making the film. And so, basically all the time, Stephen and I are both thinking about the things that Anthony and Sidney said about the project and about the particular problems they pointed to and how we should deal with them, and whether often Stephen and I discuss, but would Anthony and Sidney be happy that we're doing this? And obviously our ambition with the film is to make a film that these 2 men would have liked.
I think what makes it interesting to have a book made into a movie is it's another piece of art. It plays with the same issues, the same characters, does something similar but still different. You, in a way, encounter what you have written in a completely new and different way.
The book is examining the second generation after Nazi Germany and the guilt suffered by that entire country and its people for what the country had just gone through. And one of the reasons that the boy is so much younger than Hanna Schmitz is principally to show the different generations. I mean, she is Nazi Germany and he is the second generation.
Look after yourself.
It's about the question of how do you live in the shadow of one of the greatest crimes in human history, from the point of view of the impact of the Nazis, not on their victims, but on themselves.
As a child, you grow up and you are loved by your parents. As a child, you are helped and enabled by your teachers, given spiritual guidance by your pastors. What happens when you get to a certain age and you realize that there is no moral certainty because your teachers, your pastors, your parents were involved, whether actively or even as passive bystanders, in genocide? Does that invalidate your love? Does it mean your love is then dirty? How is it possible to love anyone given the circumstances of what that country perpetrated?
Societies think they operate by morality, but they don't. They operate by something called law.
The Bruno Ganz character is saying, what is the judgment here? What is right? What is wrong? He throws back at the students these questions, which I think the film is asking all of us. How do you judge someone? Was she right? She was doing her job, wasn't she? So it throws back at us this question of individual choice and how we judge people.
What's so impossible to understand is that it was regular people that did this. It was thousands and thousands of people, some sick monsters, obviously, but it was regular people committing these crimes that you and I could never imagine.
I think pretty much each member of my generation has an experience of this kind. So the teacher who taught me English, whom I truly liked a lot because he was a wonderful teacher and I owe him my love for the English language. And then after his retirement, it came out that he was involved in something truly bad. And we went to law school, and when I started going to law school, there was what was called the poison closet, where the literature that our professors had written between 33 and 45 was locked away. So we couldn't get it, we couldn't read it. And at one point, we protested around 68, and we got access and started reading what they had written. Professors whom we, again, owed a lot, liked a lot. So this conflict, what happens to you when you love someone who is involved, entangled, has been engaged in something awful? In a way, it entangles you yourself into this guilt if you keep loving them.
Schmitz? You have a visitor.
The problem of the reader, which is a common problem with adapting novels for movies, is that it's a first-person narrative. And so, you're privy in a novel to the narrator's thoughts. So you've always got that problem of how do you invent events which express what the character is thinking without doing a dreary old voiceover of him dirging on about what he's thinking and feeling.
Well, David Hare is an old friend of mine. We've worked together in the theatre as well as on the hours.
That's exactly my point.
It's a fantastically robust, honest, vivacious relationship, both in the writing process and indeed on set. David will be a part of the process really from the very start of writing to the very finish of editing. And it's the way I prefer to work with writers, mostly I think because of my experience in the theatre where writers tend to be core collaborators.
I'm primarily a playwright, and so I only work in the cinema when I'm interested to work in the cinema. And I've felt for many years that non-genre work is the only interesting work. This is most certainly not what is called a Holocaust picture. And because it concerns events that happened during the war, but is largely set in the 50s, the 60s, the 80s, and the 90s, it's an unclassifiable picture. And they're the ones that excite me. They're the ones that interest me to write.
What's fantastic is David, of course, is a wonderful writer, but he's also made films as a director, as well as directed for the stage. And I use David as a sounding board on everything, not just the writing, but the whole emotional landscape of them, even down to detail of props. I've always found David to be one of the key intellectual guardians of the story, but also one of the key emotional guardians of the story as well.
You're good at it, aren't you? Good at what?
The mark of a good screenplay is often that it seems simple.
Reading.
But actually they contain huge things.
What's funny?
And that's, I think, the beauty of this screenplay.
I didn't think I was good at anything.
The undercurrents, the subtext is really, shaking. It's really vibrating.
What are you asking for? Forgiveness for her, or do you just want to feel better yourself?
The business of trying to explore and understand Nazi crimes is it's a dangerous and volatile business, because you can unintentionally cross a line that you don't wish to cross. And I would say what we discussed with Bernhard more than anything was our sense of responsibility to the victims of the Nazi crimes and how we honored that sense of responsibility.
What are you doing?
I'm writing a poem about you.
The story deliberately is not generous in asking us to understand Hanna. We ask to understand Michael's journey, trying to understand Hanna.
It hesitates to signal any easy judgment about anyone in it. A judgment of Hanna, of Michael. In the end, it's a very humane piece.
It doesn't answer any questions, and it doesn't ask you as an audience to forgive the actions of anybody. And whilst I couldn't hope for an audience to sympathise with Hanna Schmitz, I liked the idea that audiences may feel morally compromised and uncomfortable if they did feel any level of sympathy for someone who had committed horrific war crimes. I mean, that's an extraordinary thing to have an audience experience. And so if a little bit of that happens, I think it makes it all the more interesting.
I mean, people need to interpret the movie in their own way, and I hope people do. I think it's a very complicated story. My version of it might not be other people's version of it.
Who was she?
Well, that's what I wanted to tell you. That's why we're here.
But of course, it isn't the telling. In the telling is the release, and the telling is the importance, and in the telling is the understanding.
So, David, this must be a very exciting night for you.
Oh yes, it is. It's great to be here, and I just came here to see the film.
And action!
This is my third movie. I think Stephen was looking for a German boy, and maybe he saw the first movie from me, and then I came to had an audition, and my agency actually said, don't go because you're gonna be very, very hopeful, and then it's always with this international things, and then it doesn't work, and then you're very disappointed. But then I heard it's Stephen Daldry who was doing the movie, and then I just wanted to try. And then I had the audition, another audition, and another audition, and it went so on.
When I cast David, he was still at school just outside Hamburg, and his mother, Angela, was not very keen that he should leave school to come and do a film. But in the end, she relented.
Because I was missing 4 months of school, my mother said, you can do this movie if you get the year 10. You can compare that in English terms with the GCSEs. So that was a very good motivation. So I did the year, and then I was allowed to do the movie, and then I thought it was still the audition process, and then I was sitting with Stephen watching a theater, and then he was talking about the movie and something, and then I was asking him, oh, am I playing the part? And then he was saying, oh, by the way, I didn't tell you. Yeah, you're doing the part.
Tell me about the two of you working together on this.
How did we work together on this? What did you have to do?
Rehearse a lot, prepare a lot.
What sort of prep did you have to do?
Learn English, because I just knew my school English, and so I had to sit down with a dialect coach and learn English, which was great. And what else?
Reading.
Reading, lots of reading, yes.
And lots of rehearsing.
Yes, we did a lot of reading.
We did a lot of reading.
We went to a Jewish Holocaust museum, and after this we went to a bookshop which was also in the museum, and then Stephen bought me a lot of books which I had to read. Actually, it was the first movie where I really learned about preparation, and I realized how less I actually know about the Third Reich and everything.
David's made films before, but not that many so far, and his willingness to be told, you know, here, if you try this, it might help you to feel that. He really likes to be given that guidance, and that's wonderful, you know, and Stephen is just completely, just so brilliant with him.
Look at me, kid.
That was a very big challenge for me. You know, first sex scenes as well. At the beginning I was very, very nervous because it's the first time I had to do these scenes, and it's really weird to do these scenes. And it's very scary. And then with Kate Winslet, such a great actress. But both Stephen Daldry and Kate Winslet helped me a lot. Stephen by being very clear about everything and talking a lot about it, and Kate by being very easy to be with and being funny.
But we shot them at the very end, so they'd already had quite a long time to establish their relationship. And of course, the funny thing about those scenes is, in the end, they only took of a year-long shoot. Maybe it's 2 days of shooting, so it's not exactly. It wasn't a long issue. So the nerves that one had, they sort of evaporated over those couple of days as one got down to it and was very specific about it.
The whole shooting process was 1 year, and we had a lot of breaks in between, and these breaks were very helpful for me because I had time to think it over and get more into the story. But it was a journey. It was a long journey, and with a lot of challenges. But it was also a great experience.
Action!
You weren't always happy?
Thank you. She enjoyed me very much.
Here we are in Berlin. Mm-hmm. We're doing our press. What's it like? Are you excited about seeing how it's going to go down here?
Yes.
Yes. I know what I want to ask you. Who of your family has seen the film?
My mother, my father, and my brother.
And what do they say about it? What's their response to it?
I don't know. They will see it tomorrow.
Oh, they haven't seen it yet. No. Your mother's seen it.
But yes, my mother. My mother was too excited. She had to watch it on a DVD, like me.
Yeah.
And she had no one stopping her. Like you stopped me.
I know, I did. I thought you should see it on the big screen.
Yes.
But your mother watched it on the DVD?
She did.
And what was her response?
She was very touched because she experienced a little bit the same story.
Right.
With her parents, and she was very moved by the story and thought it was very, very true and could see so many same feelings in the film. And she really loved the film.
I'm dying to talk to her about it. What did she say about you?
Crap.
Seriously, what did you say? Was she nice to
you? Yeah. She thought the makeup was good.
On you?
And she thought, yes, she thought it's good.
Are you worried about all your family seeing you naked and doing lovemaking scenes?
Yes, but I'm more worried about my grandparents watching the film.
Because you're naked or because of the subject?
Both.
People go on about how much did everyone know. Who knew? What did they know? Everyone knew. Our parents, our teachers. That isn't the question.
The question is, how could you let this happen? And better, why didn't you kill yourself when you found out?
Which scene are you most excited about seeing on the DVD that you think that we shot that wasn't in the film?
Hamlet.
Are you? I'm glad about that. Because what David's referring to is there's a scene where David read to Hanna. It's a much longer sequence, and so for the DVD extras, there's a much longer sequence of his reading, and he's referring to one scene where he was reading Hamlet to Kate, to Hanna Schmitz, and so we're excited about seeing that. What else?
Captain Ahab.
Yeah, Captain Ahab. That was good. I know the reading because you spent
so much time.
Tell us about how much time you spent on that reading sequence.
Long time. I don't know how long exactly, but I was coming to London, I think, just for the reading.
Yeah.
For, I don't know how long.
Weeks and weeks.
Yeah,
weeks.
Why
did you have to spend so long on the reading?
Because I'm German and I can't speak any English, and yeah, you have to believe that that's my mother tongue.
And it's learning the rhythms of the particular...
Yes, and he's getting very good at it.
Yeah.
He's getting very good at the reading, and so I had to get very good at the reading.
Billions of bilious blue blistering barnacles in a thundering typhoon. It is water.
But what on earth did you expect it to be?
Whiskey.
Whiskey, by thunder, whiskey.
Reflecting back at the film, what were the hardest things that you had to do?
A lot of things. Working with Stephen Daldry.
Yeah, that was telling me.
And
well, do you think that's very hard on you? I was not that hard.
No, of course not. But
have a little look around.
But no, the older Michael.
Yeah.
Switching between the older Michaels and the young Michaels because they're so different.
And we shot out a sequence. So some days you were the older Michael and some days the younger Michael.
Yes. I find that very difficult, and I didn't really get the character, so I was getting the character during the shoot.
But you did do some incredibly hard sequences, like the sequences when you were in the trial reacting. A lot of those sequences are the hardest things to do when you're just having to react.
Mm-hmm. Because I had to know the whole dialogue of the trial. I had to know what it means, everything. And what does it mean when she wrote the report? What does that mean for her? I just had to know. So I had to know before how to react to these.
I know, really.
Scenes correctly.
Are we being...
we're being wrapped.
We're being wrapped.
To the red carpet.
We're being wrapped. David's got to go and be glamorous. But more reflections to come.
More reflections to come, yes.
Looking forward to seeing how the German reaction is and what your parents think about the film tomorrow night.
And see you soon.
It was great to be a part of the story, and I got to know these people very, very well, and these are great people. And I learned so much, especially from acting. When Kate went on stage, and there were standing ovations and a long applause, and as I said, I was very excited about the reaction in Germany, and yes, it seemed that they liked the film.
Kate has to age from 36 to late 60s, and it's a progressive amount of aging that she goes through. And so, of course, when you get to the later years, it means that Kate herself has to sit in a chair for many, many hours before she can get to the point where she can be filmed.
See, look. Yeah. They've already made me look 55. We've just completed 6 hours of hair and makeup.
And it is 5 o'clock in the morning.
It's 5 o'clock in the morning and we've all had about 4.5 hours sleep.
There's about 6 of us in this team. And from the very beginning, from the first conceptual conversation to the final tests, we've all worked together. And we just all do our little bit. Which means that everyone does what they're best at, and it's sort of completely teamwork.
Well, this is the beginning stage, which, to be honest with you, makes me look really quite alien-like. I don't really resemble a human being until
for a while
the hair goes on and the eyebrows go on. They even take my eyebrows away.
So let's say my hand is her face that's been sculpted on. You've got a mould. This thing here, these 2 layers of cat plastic sprayed on the inside of the mould. either side. You close the mould up, you bolt it really tightly up, and then you inject under as much pressure as you can possibly do this silicone, so it's really quite liquid, and then it goes to a semi-liquid state, a bit like a jelly. Inside, and then when you take it out, you've got a skin that will actually compress a bit and move with the actor's skin.
There comes the bald lady.
Because this is important to me, and whatever you cut out of this bit has to go in. This chair that I'm sitting in, comfortable as it is, makes me feel a little bit like Thora Hird. God bless you, Thora. It was not requested by me, okay? So this movie star chair that you see with the lovely terry toweling is her fault.
It is.
Okay? And I keep being concerned, whenever we have extras come in or day players come in, I keep thinking, oh my God, you have to tell them that you are responsible for this chair. Otherwise they're going to walk away going, God, that Kate Winslet, she's got this special chair with remote controls and everything. Having said that, I do quite like it.
But only because Kate has to be here for 6 hours.
And then it does all kinds of things.
Very important for our process.
Where's me popcorn? This is the bit where Matt wipes any residue moisturiser off my skin. And even though we have tried to get him not to do a version of the Clearasil ad where he looks at the grime he wipes away, can't help yourself, can you, Matt?
No, I can't.
So then he looks looks at the grime and makes me feel like a spotty teenage boy. See? He's doing it again. It's so good for the self-esteem, this part. I'm just telling you now. It's so good for the ego. Oh. See, the thing about acting. Right.
What are you doing here, Matt?
We're just offering the neck up before we put any glue on, just getting the right position, basically. And for it to be comfortable for Kate and...
That's a lie.
Yeah. We just throw it on them.
Because the material is so brilliant and sort of skin-like and flexible, you know, we have to get it to sit perfectly over these bones here and the dent here, and make sure that the wrinkly part of the neck sits at the point that it would.
The skin of this cat plastic is so fragile. They're a nightmare to prep. It's heartbreaking because you can spray it up, do the whole thing, inject it, and maybe a bit's missed, or you've got an air bubble. And that's it, 2 days down the pan, start up again. I think Rick Baker was saying they were getting maybe 1 in 10 pieces out the mould. But when you get it out and when it works, it's fantastic. These are the edges that Matt bleeds onto the skin to disappear. This is silicone.
I took some pictures home last night and I showed them to my daughter. It was about 9 o'clock and she'd waited up for me.
Did she?
Yeah, and I showed her the picture and I said, "Who's that?" And she said, "Well, it looks like Granny Plum, but it can't be Granny Plum because she died last year."
Oh no.
I know.
That's so sweet.
You see this? It's come to this. Look at that. Well done. Looks brilliant.
Finished.
When you see Kate's ears through the hair, it just adds a bit of, just helps with the whole ageing process, really. Just knocks off the youthfulness.
So the fact that I've got three piercings in this one lobe
and there's that.
wouldn't look good.
So there's Kate's face. These are different, they're the upper eyelids, but it was sculpted on effects, moulded, and then injected in these holes. That's the gelatin there.
The thing that is so weird about this though is that to me this doesn't look like me, even though I know that it is, because It was a whole but to me it looks like my sister. It's very weird. It looks like my sister Beth. All my really bad open pores. You can see all the things.
It's not a neck pile there.
It really freaked me out. I said to Stephen yesterday, before we did a take, I said, okay, I said, I haven't got everything, you know, I haven't got the various things that we still haven't put in yet. So tits, teeth, lenses, and we'll go. and I realised that actually that really sums up
the whole
character at this moment in time. Guess what?
What?
Now, what on earth could that be?
It's going to be your nose.
Yeah, that's my... The boobs and the belly and various fatty bits around the back of the hips and things. When I sit down, everything moves the way that a body would move. And because there is a weight to it... I have to say this quietly, otherwise Pauline will get concerned. Because the boobs weigh a ton, I get backache.
These are this stage eye bags, so these are older with. You see that there? So that's Kate's left eye bag with like the little kind of crow's feet laughter lines, but they're quite dinky. From the life cast of Kate, they were sculpted, bearing in mind the movement when she wrinkles her eyes. But the gelatine's nice because once it gets warmer during the day, they kind of soften up and move nice.
I didn't write anything about you.
From the life cast of Kate, they were sculpted and then moulded and then injected with gelatin, open the mould and then powdered so they don't stick to themselves.
I didn't look at what I was writing there, so I have no control over it. Actually, yesterday there was somebody on set who I'd never seen before, and he was quite a cute and lovely boy. Yeah. And so I'm sort of going, oh, hi, like this, and then I looked at and I looked in the mirror to check my eye, and I went, oh no,
oh no, oh
no, that was so tragic of me. I just basically gave like a nice little twinkly smile to somebody, you know, thinking that I just looked like normal, you know, friendly Kate, you know.
No.
No. This boy, we had absolutely no idea who I was, so he must have just thought, why is that granny smiling at me in a slightly sideways, slightly flirty manner? God,
but also
that
our
really
granny,
does make me tragic,
you know, there's
actually.
some grannies that could have a little bit of lipstick or powder. Our granny has no help.
I'm begging for lip gloss.
Nothing.
This is the fun bit, the painting.
What, you like this bit? Or?
Oh yeah, I like this bit. Something to do with the fact that he's really good at it. When it all comes to life, this bit. Yesterday, David Kross, who's playing young Michael, I forgot that he hadn't seen it. And I walked towards him, and he actually went, no.
Thank you, that's good. He did?
I said, how do I look? He said, you just look absolutely awful. He said, that's terrible, he kept saying. He just couldn't believe that it wasn't my skin, you know, he just couldn't believe it.
Fine.
Can you explain how you handed the responsibility over to me because everyone else is too scared of it?
Too wussy.
Onto the bus. And it's interesting because a lot of people have said to me, ew, that must be so weird, you know, like to see yourself like old and ill. And I just love it because I've never done this before. I've never had prosthetics of any kind at all. Not even an injury prosthetic, nothing. And I've never worn contact lenses before, and so to me it's just this sort of great part of my job that I haven't had a chance to do until now, and so I do actually really, really like it. The whole process was so painstaking but so fascinating and so wonderful to look in the mirror and see myself as an older woman, but also all my muscles could completely move. They all came through in the makeup. They didn't seem to cover anything up of my own bone structure or anything like that. They just simply aged it.
Young, old.
Just going to pop to the shops. Does anyone want anything?
Well done, Kate.
Showtime.